Hey.
What are we here? Are we on?
I hope so.
It's 4 o'clock on the nose.
I think we are here, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Jimmy Doan Show. Remarkably consistent once again.
Yep.
4 p.m. We do this twice a week, Wednesdays and Sundays, right here. Although we may be switching next week, we may make an announcement and send you guys over to the Jimmy Doan Facebook page just for consistency and for ease, because there's so many people looking for us these days. We need to sort of consolidate our sites, but we'll let you know. So thank you for joining us. Today is the 2nd of December.
We had a couple of new listeners last week, or last time too. Donna from up New York and everything. Yeah.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, that's great. Apparently they're listening. And my lung doctor every once in a while chimes in.
To see
anyway, lots of news.
She's caused.
Huh?
To see what havoc is being caused by those lungs.
By those lungs, that's right. Yeah, probably wishes he'd take it back out again. No, he didn't. No,
it's my worst mistake.
He still can breathe.
That's right.
All that breath coming out. Lots of news, and I'm not going to get to all of it today. There were
not going to get to. We can go over. I mean,
well, I suppose we can, but I mean, because George Bush died. So what?
George Bush died. Yeah. Well, what I didn't mention last week was Ricky Jay died. I wanted to mention that he was the super sleight of hand magician.
You did mention that.
I told you after the show.
Okay, right.
But I meant to say it anyway.
Okay, well, you can see his stuff on YouTube or something.
Man, I'm sure you can't see his stuff on YouTube.
No, yeah, right. What's he doing? He's a true alien.
Yeah, man. I mean, if anybody was, it was that guy.
Well, I've seen when you see stuff. Some of the street guys, when they throw a deck of cards,
and it becomes a bunch of birds and flies off.
No. But the deck on a window, they'll throw a deck of cards on there. You've chosen a card,
right,
and it's on the other side of the window.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Good? Are you kidding?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that he did that many flashy things, but man, the guy could hide like a car in his hand.
Right. I mean, that's good. takes a little practice. Anyway, I'm not going to. I'll mention at the end some of the stuff we're not going to get to. I don't know no reason to do it now. So, in no particular order, Germany doubles payout to migrants.
Aha! I can take us to Germany.
Okay.
Fabulous Wiesbaden Castle. In southern Germany, this is a great, excellent location.
Where am I?
Oh, geez, I think you're in a gas chamber.
Oh, good deal.
Look good.
Okay, all of our French people
curtains
and Germans
for you.
We've now been off of Facebook.
My Jewish friends on the first day of Hanukkah, no less.
Oh yeah, perfect. Right. So anyway, as unbelievable it might sound, as it struggled to reduce destabilizing influx of refugees flooding into Germany, a coalition government led by Angela Merkel, are offering rejected asylum seekers a way home. They give them financial aid, and they give them enough to live for a year plus some whatever it is if you'll go home. These are the ones that have been rejected.
Right.
Okay, apparently there's a fair number of them that are accepted, but whatever. So it would be paying their rent for the first year and some left over for general expenses. What's more unbelievable, the numbers of asylum seekers applying for the program has fallen precipitously. And what's amazing is not unbelievable at all. If you go and you realize that being an asylum seeker is maybe going to get you rejected and sent home, so you're not going to be an asylum seeker. You're just going to go in there and do whatever you want.
Well, right. I mean,
that's why the number of asylum seekers has dropped off. They don't want to be rejected and go home. I mean, it's not surprising at all that they would do that. So anyway, they were talking about 29,000 people one time, and then this year 14,000, falling down to 14,000, half basically. And of course, they have a catchy title for this repatriation program called "Your Country, Your Future Now." I guess that's in...
Get out.
That's right. It's in German. So in order to qualify, applicants must revoke their initial asylum application and drop any appeals or further proceedings in Germany's backlogged asylum court. So, no wonder people are not applying. Pretty obvious. I mean, this is what do you call it, the unintended consequence. Doesn't mean that there are any fewer people coming into Germany.
Right. I understand what you're going.
Okay, good.
I mean, look, this is one of those things where you hope they just set it up to give it a try. Like every once in a while, the Marion County down just south of here will have a free, like, you've won a prize giveaway day to everybody who's got a subpoena out for them, right? You know, hey, see who shows up, you arrest them, you know.
Yeah.
And then maybe this is the same kind of thing, like, we'll put a thing out there that says, hey, you got a good
you
deal
get money
for
a year at home.
That's right.
Freebie.
That's right. That's right. Get on the bus. That's right. Hit the gas. Yeah, I mean that's.
Hit the gas. Don't say that.
Oh yeah.
God almighty Christ! What are you doing?
Yeah.
Jeez, you're a terrible person, you. Okay, and let me just think. This, of course,
it's not a gas bus, and it's an electric bus.
That's right. That's good. So the other question is there something popping up there on your screen that means anything?
Other screen, don't worry.
Okay. The other thing is, which we're not going to talk about much unless you have something, about the caravan.
No, I got nothing.
No, I got nothing. I mean, it's all same old. Apparently, they have to take a number now or something. I don't know. But it's pretty well, you know, I don't see any great thundering herd of people coming in.
Well, as we've talked about in the past, you know, the caravan represents about the daily influx of immigrants into the United States.
Of legal ones.
Right, on average. Because we let in about 1 million people a year, so
right,
3,000 a day or something.
Right.
So it's not like immigration has stopped or anything.
No,
I think
but just the big deal. But I mean, the
too bad, missed an opportunity. Could have homesteaded them.
Yep, right, yeah. Twitter tumbles on fear of conservative backlash. Now, this is what?
Well, Twitter tumbles, man. I mean, of course,
stock.
Right? No, I know, but as we've talked about before, whatever X stock tumbles on is always just a pitch. You know, who knows? We don't know that the person who owned a huge chunk of it died the day before, and their widow sold a big chunk. You know, it's like But what you're saying is, Twitter is meeting some opposition, and I was also agreeing with it because I got another story about Twitter as well. Go ahead.
Okay, good. But it's interesting because shares of Twitter tumbled 6%. Backlash by conservatives protesting the perceived liberal bias.
Yeah, just
perceived? Are you kidding? The 20th Century Fox apparently has backed out of it and stopped tweeting and so forth. And Facebook. The other thing is I'm going to talk about here the girl who chained herself to the thing. Are you going to talk about?
No, go.
Okay. Well, the girl, I forget who it is, but she's an activist, and it's interesting to see. Let me just see if I've got her thing here.
Yeah, I think she's pro-Israel.
Yeah,
so she changed her.
Well, she's Jewish.
Okay.
She's Jewish, and so what she did is she tweeted out against some Muslim person that had been elected in this country, and they banned her forever. You know, you are banned for life. You know, no soup for you. That's right. Take it back. And so when you look at her in Wiki in her bio or whatever it is, it always says a far right activist. Well,
right.
It's always she's way out there.
We know that.
I know it. But it's just interesting because even there's just nobody that
the scale has. I'm going to go with redshift.
Yeah, redshift, right? It's out there in the super infrared.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, the Fox News and Twitter declined comment. Anyway, what happened was they stopped tweeting after activists used Twitter to post the home of addressed prominent host Tucker Carlson. That's when Fox stopped. We're not using Twitter anymore. So, well, I mean, it makes sense. Okay. It's interesting though. Facebook and other social media networks are facing calls for increased regulation and criticism of their handling of user data and the role of their platforms have played in a divisive U.S. political climate in recent years. Well, big mistake. The problem is if you ask for regulation, you're going to get it.
You're going to get the regulation.
Yeah, you're going to. I mean,
they were hoping to get their guys in to write the law.
But my point is the market's going to figure this out, and it is interesting to see the battles because there's at least one or two people that have started up in opposition to as a clone of Twitter or Facebook or whatever it is, but they've been banned from
Right, from Facebook and Twitter.
Facebook and Twitter. I mean, to get your message out is a little harder.
No, that'll be easy. Things travel in lightning speed these days. To me, the neatest story about Twitter this last week was that the CEO of Twitter, Jack, who actually responded to one of my tweets one time.
Right.
Yeah, because I was in favor of him adding characters when they finally went from 120 to 240.
Right.
Makes a huge difference.
Right.
They really should have gone to 500 and call it 500 words or less or something instead of 20 words or less, which is what it really was. But anyway, Jack, his the issue is that he tweeted out something that got him in hot water over in India.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and now that I'm trying to remember what it was, I can't remember. But basically, they're charging him with hate speech,
Right.
And they're contemplating some sort of conspiracy to undermine the government charges.
Right.
He talked about the caste system or something like that.
Okay.
And
Untouchables.
right, exactly. And so something he mentioned the unmentionables.
Yeah.
And
Whoa.
yeah. So anyway, it's just funny because they sort of stepped
Stepped in his own poop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. You're out there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Since the U.S.-led NATO invasion of Afghanistan in 2001. Okay.
Aha, Afghanistan.
Yes.
Let me get you out of there.
All right. Yeah, get me out of the
Ridiculous.
chamber there.
Afghanistan. There's some beautiful places in Afghanistan. There's a beautiful set of lakes I want to tell you guys about
Yeah,
before.
you're gonna put
we
me in
get
a
off.
cave, aren't you?
What? No. What?
Oh, the opium field.
Oh,
the
yeah.
poppy field. Is
There
that
you
where I
go.
am?
Uh-huh.
It's good because that's what this is about.
Watch out for that guy back there. Then.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Nefarious.
Phew. The production of opium in the country has increased by 40 times in the last 18 years. I mean, that is phenomenal.
Jesus.
According to Russia's Federal Drug Control Service.
And people wonder why we're there.
Right. No, and I mean seriously. And of course, you have got to. What is interesting is
And by that I mean we're supporting the
the
growth.
deal
of it.
was when the Taliban was there,
Uh-huh.
the opium production went because it was illegal. They would kill them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what we did is we went in there and wiped out
Made
the
it
Taliban
safe for opium.
and now made it safe for opium. And I kind of believe that I don't care who you are, you're over there, you're wandering through the poppy fields, and somebody comes up and offers you, here you are on your $100 a month salary as a grunt, and somebody says, here's $500,000, look the other way.
Right.
I mean, I don't care who you are, there's people who are going to take that.
I tell you what, it would explain the 17-year war. It would explain why it's an endless war.
And still there. I mean, our
Right.
guys are still who are we killing now?
Right. No, I know. I remember they made an announcement a few years back that the Taliban was down to like a few dozen individuals, right?
Yeah.
And they had talked about the amount of money that we had, each one we had spent like $5 million trying to kill each one.
Couldn't have bought them off.
Right. Well, exactly. I mean, it was ridiculous, and and now, like you said, who are we fighting? I read something in the report about us keeping the Taliban down, or
Right, what they're panicky, obviously, is if we withdraw, suddenly the Taliban will come back, and guess what? No more opium.
Right.
I mean, what is the problem with that? So they're oppressive people. They're like Duarte or whatever in the Philippines. They kill them all, people that are the opium people. So Afghan heroin has killed more than 1 million people since Operation Enduring Freedom.
Operation
And over
Enduring
$1 trillion
Addiction.
has been invested into transnational organized crime from drug sales. I mean, it's unbelievable. Prior to the invasion of Afghanistan, as we just said, it was banned by the Taliban. And he said, Ivanov, the Russian guy who put this report out, claimed that only around 1% of the total opium yield in Afghanistan was destroyed, and that the international community has failed to curb heroin production since NATO's has been there.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the problem obviously is that opium production provides many Afghan communities with a way of life. I mean, it's like
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Is
it's
that
like the guy selling Lucy's on the street. He can sell the cigarettes up there. Remember the guy that got killed?
Yeah.
And so he sells a couple of cigarettes at 50 cents each or something like
Is there
that.
like a way to sort of process a small amount of it from one plant, or do you just get it out of the plant?
No, you get it out. You got to. I'm pretty sure you have to process it. But I mean, somebody's got to sell the plants to somebody else.
Right.
So I mean,
There's a lot of
So there's a lot of stuff.
Drug money awash.
Yep, that's
probably.
for sure. So it turns out
Well,
that the
let me
opium
say-
trade is about 19%, almost 20% of Afghans' GDP. So that's a fair chunk.
That's a huge chunk,
Yeah.
and then a story which is quite alarming, which is right along the same lines, is the number of fentanyl.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Oh, okay.
It's interesting because Scott Adams talked about it at length in his Scott
But
Adams.
I just saw the numbers, and it's pretty.
20 million a year or something. Or,
No. It's 70,000.
Oh, 70,000. Oh, right.
But still, that is. It was 3,000 in 2013.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, in just 5 years, the number of deaths has gone from 3,000 up to 70,000, which is like that's like the number of deaths that are in auto accidents here. That's a huge.
Oh,
number.
no, it's twice that. It's twice auto accidents. It's more deaths than Vietnam and Afghanistan and the Middle East all put together.
Yeah, it's
And that's in 1 year.
it's bad.
Yeah. So anyway, Scott Adams, who has a Periscope about twice a day or whatever, listen to him all the time. He has a very, he's had apparently a stepson that died from an overdose, and so he's been on a tear to get the Chinese to do something about it. And sure enough, at this G20, Trump got a thing that had China rate fentanyl as a class 1A. You get death for this. Seriously, that was a big deal.
Well,
Big deal.
I don't know that that's. I mean, the solution to me is not any kind of government ban or anything.
Well, if they do it over there, that's a little different country over there. They know where these people are, and it's a tyrant type country.
Well, it is a lot different from just a sort of a general blanket enforcement and wait for something to happen. They'll go actually get the people.
Absolutely.
If that's the case. Well, that would be an excellent result. My solution is from my perspective, I think as an adult American, you should have the absolute constitutional right to ingestion. Since we don't really know what that does. All we know is somehow it goes into your body and then it's destroyed from the universe and your body absorbs it in some kind of a way.
Well, the thing about it is, if it was legal, there would be people that say mine's better than yours.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And they would be proof because
Right.
they would be
Right.
you would have testing. I responded to somebody on Twitter or something this week who asked what are the benefits of legalization of all the drugs, and my initial response, obviously
You don't want to kill your customers.
well, it's even better than that. It's that even if you don't care about your customers in a black market, well, it doesn't matter because you have a good monopoly. But if you have to compete on the open market, then you definitely have to take care of your customers.
Right.
You have to offer good product. You have to prove to people in advance the product you're going to offer is good and safe, marketable. We have general warranties for marketability and fitness for particular use for practically everything in our domain, everything in our universe. Those are sort of common law guarantees that come along with any product you buy from anybody.
Well, what's interesting is along those lines, if you ever read the label on some of the really innocuous drugs, they go through the lawyers have obviously made sure they go through the whole litany and up to including death from taking this, too much aspirin.
Right. Well, they have to give you the sort of general warning, but if it's legal, then you can get auxiliary warnings, ancillary warnings. You can get consumer reports. You can have
Right, that would be the main thing, to get consumer reports.
Yeah, exactly.
You would get a place like Consumer Reports, privately held or whatever, like Underwriter Laboratories, or you'd have some drug laboratory people.
Right, and also the main benefit of legalization is you get all of the bad guys out of the business.
Right.
You get the good guys in the business, and then the bad guys have obviously less of incentive to be
But
good.
one of the little minor problems, of course, as we've seen, is that when they legalize Mary Jane, for instance, marijuana, they tax the hell out of it, and then the black market is still there.
Well, they have bungled the legalizations.
Right. Boy, you mean the government bungled something? Wait a minute. What government are you talking
But
about?
it's better.
Yeah.
And it'll keep getting better. So, all right, what else we got?
The High Court likely...
Oh, wait. I want to tell everybody about this set of lakes here real quick. Look at these beautiful lakes in Afghanistan, which are just not too far from Kabul, actually. But what I thought was interesting is here are these big giant lakes, and they're miles across and 150 meters deep. One of them is. I mean, they looks just awesome. Some of them are this little shallow lake with fresh mint growing all around it and stuff, and yet. What you don't see are condos or anything like around this thing.
Or bikini-clad women on the beach there.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. It's like, here's this beautiful paradise-looking place, and it's just barren along the shore. Now, there's one structure, if you go through all the pictures of this place, which is called Band-e-Amir, which is just Lake of Amir. There's the structure right there. It's like the one little tourist trap. But anyway... interesting.
Yeah, I mean, really, so it is interesting because when you think about the countries that do have tourism as their main thing, I mean, and they, of course, some of them still can't, Greece, for instance, what the hell, they've blown their thing, but I mean, Florida, for instance, one of our main things, we have 38 million or something like that tourists a year that show up down here and pay sales taxes. Woohoo! So not that keeps them, and I'm talking about that in a minute, not that keeps the state from not raising everything. So, High Court likely to say that states can't levy excessive fines. This is the Supreme Court.
Oh yes. Well,
and what?
Go ahead.
Okay, it is the Supreme Court left little doubt Wednesday that it would rule on the Constitution's ban on excessive fines as it applies to states. Now, one of the things that is interesting, as we know, originally the Constitution was on federal stuff.
Yeah.
But after the 14th Amendment or something, they started to make it apply to the state stuff.
Right.
And I don't know if it's ever supposed to do that, but it does. And that's why free speech, for instance, they have said the First Amendment applies to state stuff and that sort of thing. When originally it didn't.
Right.
So this is one apparently that I don't know if it's been taken or not, but this is the Eighth Amendment or something that has the excessive fines should not be imposed. Well, what?
This is a little bit of a stretch. I like where they're going with it.
Yeah.
But and I think they're going to do it.
I'm sure here's the deal, because they indicated that Gorsuch and somebody else said I'm going to tell you about this in a minute.
Yeah.
A decision to favor 37-year-old Tyson Timms of Marion, Indiana, could also buttress efforts to limit the confiscation by local law enforcement of property belonging to someone suspected of a crime. And the court formally held that most of the Bill of Rights applies to the states as well as the federal government, but has not done so with the Eighth Amendment. So I guess it was Gorsuch said, here we are, we still haven't gotten the Eighth Amendment to apply to the states yet, and now we're thinking about going to do it. And so Justice Stephen Breyer said, under Fisher's reading, police could take the car of a driver doing 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, take his car. Anyone who speeds has to forfeit their Bugatti, Mercedes, or special Ferrari, or even jalopy, said Breyer. So it is interesting. His criminal sentence originally included no prison time and a year of house arrest and 5 years on probation. Now, I don't know what he did, but he didn't do anything that was actually illegal. I don't believe he was transporting illegal drugs or anything, but they confiscated broken taillight or something.
All right. So you just made this story into the biggest legalese pile.
Okay, well, I'm not an attorney.
Okay, so what this story is about is civil forfeiture.
Right.
And the concept is, what's been happening is...
had a criminal sentence.
Right, but the reason that it's a big deal is because they didn't try to take the car as part of the criminal case, you notice. They could have. They could have said, restitution, you owe us that car.
Okay.
Or whatever. They could have taken whatever. They could have fined him $1 million. Well, probably, depending on how big the case was. Actually, his criminal legal case, they couldn't do that because, like you said, it wasn't a big criminal legal case. Mm-hmm. But what they've done is they've bootstrapped on these civil forfeiture cases onto what really amounts to any violation if they can imply that you have potentially used your car as instrumentality of a crime. You know, you drove your Mercedes over to pick up your dime bag or whatever, and they want to take it. And what's happened is, in recent decades, they've been very successful at taking people's stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And we've reported on that a few times.
Oh, they've taken it when there wasn't any crime at all.
Right. If they find a big pile of cash, they just take it. That kind of stuff. So what this entire story is just a pushback on that. It's the Supreme Court stepped in and said, look, you know what? We saw what you're doing, and we're going to tap the brakes a little, I think.
Okay.
And so now the Eighth Amendment argument, I mean, that's somebody very clever came up with that. You know, this is cruel and unusual punishment. All right. This is designed to prevent them from chopping you up into small pieces.
Right.
You know, this is
80 lashes with the cat of nine tails.
Exactly.
Right. That's cruel and unusual.
Exactly.
But
the
taking
bull
your car?
Yeah, no, this is nothing, and so you know but I like it. I like it. The Constitution has continually evolved into
Or devolved.
no, this is an evolution. I mean, it's not. It's the same words, but it's just applied to stuff that it wasn't formally applied to, because that stuff has grown out of proportion. And you know,
That's some truth to that. But
nobody would have if you had rolled up and taken someone's horse and carriage in the late 1700s as federal marshals and said, "Hey, we saw you toting British goods,
whiskey or something.
Right, tea.
Yeah.
So we're taking your horse and carriage." Everybody would like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Like, they never would have thought of that kind of forfeiture of the stuff, you know.
I wonder. Back in this, that's a good. Might have.
I don't think they would.
Well, that may be, but the thing about what you've just talked about is something that I'm really adamant about, and that is the living Constitution, which, as far as I'm concerned,
I know.
bullshit.
I know. I saw you tense up when I said that the Constitution has evolved. But it's totally different from the living. It is. No. What I just described is not the quote unquote living Constitution that you're worried about. It's not. The living Constitution people are literally warping the words, changing the words into something that they're not. It's not like they're just applying the same words to a new situation.
Okay, let me ask you this. So, the living Constitution, was that when Roberts turned a fine into a tax?
Well, then that was just a misread.
And how about Wickard?
Now that's a living Constitution
Right.
thing.
Okay.
That's something that they literally changed what it does. And
They changed what was international, but over the border consumption. That is to say, the commerce.
the definition of commerce.
The definition of commerce. They changed it.
A bunch of
the
stuff.
state, the feds were supposed to be able to regulate commerce across state borders.
Yeah.
But here's a guy doing in his own backyard, for God's sakes, and they said,
Yeah.
"Oh well, that's
Yeah, and people who read the elasticity clause as granting powers left and right, that's a living Constitution argument, which we
so
reject.
the next. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say we do have a Supreme Court story.
Which one?
Well, there's that one, but we've got legal stuff as well. But go ahead.
Okay. Well. Okay. A Michigan mother. This is interesting how the state comes in. A Michigan mother who allowed her 6-year-old to amass 26 unexcused abscesses spent 5 days in jail and has been placed on 9 months probation.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I think what they're thinking is that all these unexcused, maybe child abuse or something like that. I don't know. But the bottom line is,
they charged her with.
She had to plead guilty to truancy. That's what they charged her with, was truancy. And so they, in addition to her jail time and probation, she was ordered to pay $500 or whatever in fines. She was first contacted by the school administrators to resolve the absences. In October 2017.
They gave her so many chances.
That's right. No, they gave her all.
Her papers were not in order.
For over a year, including a meeting that Horton didn't attend, administrators handed the case over to prosecutors. Now, this brings up something else. Letters and meetings were set up.
Yeah.
She neglected to respond, and in March she was charged. After failing to appear at arraignment, she pleaded guilty. I'm not sure why, but her punishment was delayed to give her a chance.
You're not sure why?
Huh?
You're not sure why?
Giving her a chance to fix them.
No, why she pled guilty?
No.
Well, because the threat is so monumental.
Oh, right. You're in jail.
Yeah,
time or
you're
something.
facing
Lose your kids, right? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you're facing this hideous, and also it's a slam dunk.
Right. Well, here's the thing that's interesting, is when we talk about this stuff before. For instance, I think Lou Rockwell or somebody like this once said, not paying a parking ticket can ultimately get you killed.
Right.
If you resist it long enough and hard enough, eventually. Well, here we are. This was administrators handed it over to the prosecutors.
Right.
Well, the prosecutors have guns.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that people don't realize, that there are guns in the equation.
And for her own benefit,
For her own benefit
of
and
the children,
for her children's benefit.
they
That's right.
jailed her.
6 years old. I mean, here's the deal. A 6-year-old did not go to school.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I'm sorry, you're going to go play blocks.
Clapper and irons.
Clapper and irons.
That's
It is stunning to me. And this is the problem. And this is, of course, one of the things is education is so important, so important for your child to attend a state-run indoctrination system that if you don't, if you don't do the re-education like they're going to do in China or something, we're going to beat the parents, put you in jail, and take your kids, and we will put them into a state-run institution.
Oh, they will too.
Yeah, and they will. So it's just stunning to me that people don't see the horror of this. And of course we talked a little bit about this. I don't know if I'm going to cover this again, but last time we talked a little bit about the Chinese doing the social engineering business with the cameras and everything.
Right.
And if you don't fall, it'd be like 1984. If you don't fall into line, well, guess what? You go to a re-education camp.
Right.
If your score goes too low, that you can't buy food or anything, your charge card doesn't work.
You can't buy food.
I mean, seriously, no, your charge card is no good. How about
You
this?
start
No.
starving and stuff.
That's it. So then you get to go to a re-education camp, and they showed pictures of the coming re-education camp. This is out of the Cambodia, whatever. What's his name? Pol Pot. Unbelievable. Speaking of tyrants, Venezuela's Maduro.
Venezuela. Beautiful Venezuela.
That's right. Lo siento para mi español. What? No es bueno.
Oh.
You've got that beautiful lake. You're on a beautiful lake.
I am on a beautiful beach, yeah. Where are you?
I'm in a barrio.
And look, doesn't look good. Hey, there's some Hugo Chavez. Look, somebody's got satellite right up there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, that's the Jimmy Dome satellite.
There you go.
Is that the one that plays the Rolling Stones?
Could be.
Yeah, we've been thinking about that. Anyway, he boosts minimum wage by 150%. President Nicolas Maduro
Fixed it.
Yeah, he fixed it right here. He increased Venezuela's minimum wage by 150%. This is the 6th readjustment of the year as part of his economic reform plan that has failed to curb rampant inflation. Now I'm going to talk about that in a minute too. The announcement came 3 months after a wage hike of 3,400% and a devaluation that removed 5 zeros from Venezuela's currency. The latest jump takes the monthly minimum wage from 1,800 to 4,500 bolivars, or about $50 a month at this current rate. $50 a month is the minimum wage. Whoop-ee.
Loving it.
Yeah, loving it.
Loving it.
Due to inflation, which is skyrocketed over 1,000,000% this year, according to the International Monetary Fund. This sum per month allows you to purchase 3 kilograms of meat, which is 6 pounds or something like that. So he holds inflation is well below the expectations of the International Monetary Fund.
Well below.
And the International Monetary Fund is projecting inflation of 10,000,000%.
No, we're well below. We're 9.5 million.
Yeah, right. Whatever. But what's interesting, what's fascinating is the cognitive dissonance of people that sit there and say, "Well, I fixed it."
Well, well, of course, I don't think anybody, even him, believes that. This is just a Band-Aid kind of thing. Probably the ministers who have to implement it have some core belief in the minimum wage.
They get paid.
Well, of course, and that's why they're going along with it.
Yeah.
Hey, the guy says, do this, you do that, and it's the Americans' fault.
It's what's stunning to me, and of course I've seen this in other, when they had in Russia years and years ago, they had the huge bread lines, and they did.
Seeing it all worked out.
Yeah, right. It all worked out. The thing that's interesting is, to me, is when do they storm the Bastille?
Well, like I said before, you don't storm the Bastille until the bullets are flying, until death is imminent anyway.
Well,
Until
when you have
you've
nothing,
got
to lose. You have
right?
nothing to lose. That's
Right.
right.
And see-
well, they've had over 1 million people that have gone into Colombia. From,
Oh yeah, it's been a mass exodus. It's been horrifying. It's been bad. I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, they've gone through 7 of the stages or something. And there's
Well, what's interesting is how could anybody not see that they're the cause of this? I mean,
because if you don't, I mean,
it's the United States cause.
it's
Great
easy
Satan.
to look. It's easy to understand that Venezuela was at its pinnacle when oil was at $120 a barrel,
Right.
and now it's at 40 or something.
This is what you get for depending on one.
I'm with you there, but you can certainly make a powerful economic argument that they lost a huge chunk in that devaluation.
I agree. Then and the simple fact was, and of course they were, it was interesting, the oil companies were privately held.
Right.
And he finally had confiscated them because he wanted the money, or whoever it was, Hugo. The point being that if they left them private,
Right.
the money would have stayed there, basically. I mean, but what happens is, they raise the severance tax and all that stuff to try and pay for their government programs, because we know what's best for you people.
Right. Well, they were in the death throes at that point. I mean, what had happened, obviously, was Hugo inherited this super wealthy country, started
Right.
to spend like crazy.
Yep.
And of course, for a while, it worked, as it
Right.
always does.
Right.
And then when the money started to run out, and then, of course, an economic collapse hit, then all bets are off, and then they just doubled down since then. We killed Chavez. I mean, something happened to Chavez, and
Right.
and then yeah, and then and of course Maduro.
Piece of lead.
That's right. It attacked all at once
Yeah, right.
at 1,700 feet per second. And of course Maduro's been doing the same stuff, and he's a bus driver, very well intentioned, and he's gone strictly by the communist playbook right out of 1900 whatever, and it's
1850.
I mean it's okay, confiscate the stuff, give it to the people, and we're seeing the results. But it's the divergence.
It's been the same every single time, but this time it's different. And what's interesting is
but you can
AOC and Bernie are up there getting people in our place, do all this stuff, and it just doesn't make any sense. It's so illogic.
They're accepting a different set of givens is what's happening. It's not illogical if you start with the concept that.
Well, if you start with an axiom that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Okay, we're going to start. It's interesting. I'm thinking we're going to start with the axiom that 2 + 2 is 8. All right, now.
Well, in Euclidean geometry or something.
Right. Well, what's interesting is I forget the first guy, some Italian guy, who said, "Well, what if parallel lines do meet?"
Well, there you go. Exactly.
And that was the beginning of calculus or something.
No, that's Euclidean geometry, of course.
Well, Euclidean says they don't meet.
Well, okay, so
He said he did a postulate and changed
three-dimensional
something, whatever. Mathematicians in the audience can tell me about that.
You're the mathematician.
The other thing is that we talked about, and
Right.
I'm just going to skip over it.
Right. Well, let me just say, just as a little tribute here, the last time probably we'll do this, but
Yes.
Hugo. Hugo.
Bring it almost every week. We would have a new something as it was sliding down the toilet. And that was our theme song. That was great.
yeah. Well, and of course, now Hugo's gone, and nobody remembers Rico Suave, so I'm gonna have to update that at this point.
Yeah, right. The thing I just already talked about was this Laura Loomer. She was the one that alt-right, they call her alt-right commentator, changed herself to Twitter HQ after being banned. And then it said, well, she gave up after 2 hours. She had to go to the bathroom. Well, she threw away the key, and the police had to cut her loose. But she's a far-right conspiracy theorist and activist.
Yeah, you talked about this.
Yeah, I know I did. I just was mentioning that she posted a tweet attacking Omar, incoming congresswoman. And what's interesting is that
Because she voted for genital mutilation or something, or no, she voted against banning it or something.
yeah, something like that. So anyway, the account. So Twitter said we apply the Twitter rules impartially and not based on ideology.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
Sure.
Here's another thing. I love this part. I'm getting right here towards the end. Let me just make sure we go. Okay.
Oh, we got plenty of time.
Okay. Chicago's new PlayStation tax shows how greedy politicians can be.
A PlayStation tax?
Wait a minute. It gets better. Chicago, which is probably the most heavily taxed city in the world, not in the world, but in the States, was shocked when the PlayStation 4 users were shocked when they turned on their consoles and found a new message from Sony. The message informed that as of November 14th, 2 weeks ago, whatever it is, they would be required to pay a 9% amusement tax for PlayStation subscriptions, such as the various ones. Chicago's amusement tax is one of the most heavily taxed cities in the country. In addition to holding the title for the highest sales tax nationwide, the city also levies additional taxes on bottled water and cell phone. Bottled water, taxes on bottled water. Okay, good. We've always talked about this before. They're going to have the air mask on where you deposit a quarter if you want to breathe. Tax the air.
So that's just an additional 10% tax on certain consumer products that related to...
Well, the amusement tax, no, you don't have to own, if it's a subscription. For instance, the amusement tax was originally passed several years ago and included almost all forms of entertainment. This is what gets me is, here you are, you want to have some fun, and they tax it.
Well, right, because they know you're going to keep having fun.
I understand, but I mean, this is, but is you talk about greedy, it's...
Hey man, if you had the power to tax...
Power to destroy, but you're destroying amusement is what they're doing.
It doesn't matter what, we're making stuff. We're going to make good stuff with the money.
So anyways, if you want to go to your favorite sports team or nightclub or even catch a movie, they are on the hook for an additional 5% tax. In 2015, the amusement tax was expanded as city officials realized they could bring in additional revenue with the creation of a, quote, cloud tax. A cloud tax.
This tax amuses me.
So what they did is they began instituting a 9% tax for using platforms like Netflix, Hulu, and so forth. So if you stream your video, you now have another 9% tax on that. And so the amusement tax now, because of all this, the amusement tax now brings in $12 million annually. Now, of course, there's a little minor problem. The city of Chicago is currently operating in a $400 million deficit. And so they're going out there, and we're talking about the coins in the cushions here. $12 million is going to help offset $400 million deficit.
That must be their debt, their current debt. That can't be their deficit.
No, it's their deficit.
Oh, that's their, okay.
Yeah, $400 million. No, they've got $1 billion, or more than $1 billion.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
No, they've got billions of dollars of tax stuff.
Right. No, I was.
And $400 million. They're shortchanged. They don't collect $400 million. So in this way, they've decided to grab up an extra $12 million on people's amusement.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, the city had to get creative when it comes to extorting money from its residents. This amusement tax was created as a means of decreasing the deficit and aiding the city in for additional expenditures. What's interesting is Apple decided they're going to fight it. They're saying no, we're taking you to court on this, and so
seems kind of specific.
Well, what happens is you have to have, if you're liable for the tax if your mailing address is inside the city of Chicago. But there's people that are outside the city of Chicago that apparently have a mailing address, but that's where the suit is coming from. You shouldn't have to charge me because I don't live in the city, that kind of thing. So anyway, but I thought this was interesting because they do it here too. We have here during the game days, they want to tax here we live fairly close to the stadium. We park cars on the lawn here, and we have donations, but they want me to buy a certificate, a permit for $50-some in order to park cars on my own property, but it's only good for 6 or 7 days a year. if I want to park 20 cars on my lawn like today, you get a big fat fine because you're not permitted for that.
Mm-hmm.
An Egyptian actress is facing a trial next month, charged with public obscenity after she attended the closing ceremony of a film festival in Cairo, wearing a see-through embroidered gauze dress that revealed her legs.
Ooh.
Yeah, right. This is not the big the malfunction, wardrobe malfunction during the Super Bowl or whatever. So anyway, the complaint was to the chief prosecutor by a group of lawyers for some reason against the actress, and she faces up to 5 years in prison if she's convicted.
Hey, it's like Potter Stewart said, man, about obscenity.
Yeah, right. I know when I see it.
That's it.
Yeah.
There it is, right there. I saw a leg.
Yeah, I saw a leg. You think about it. It used to be. I mean, literally, what in the 1900s, ankles. Ooh,
There you go. See?
that. Ah, man, I'm going to go home and
They're only 100 years.
I'm going to go home and abuse myself. I saw that ankle. So, criticizing migration become a criminal offense under a new plan.
What?
The United Nations Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration, okay, that name is on the door there, seeks to make immigration a universal human right. The member of parliament or whatever says, I would like to say some words on the Global Compact on Migration. On the 10th and 11th of December, there's going to be this big meeting in Marrakesh, Morocco, and they're supposed to sign this agreement that gives that says that that this is an international human right, a universal human right for migration. The agreement, of course, is not binding. It's still meant to be the legal frame.
It can't be binding. People.
No, I know, but I mean, they're supposed to all sign this thing. Well, it turns out that right away, I get Austria. There's a dozen countries here that said they're not even going to go, and they're not going to sign it. Media outlets that give room to criticism of migration can be shut down. So if you write an op-ed piece or something like that, and you say, this is killing us,
Well, shut down by who? In
who?
what countries? Yeah, I mean.
well, by if you sign on to this, apparently, if you're not one of these dozen countries, and you do sign on to say yes, this is a right, and in that country you have a little flyer, newspaper, or whatever it is. Well, they're going to show up at your front door with a gun and a badge. Well, no, that's what this is. Why else would you do it?
Look, I agree that you do it for advertising is what you do it for, so that you can go home and say, look what we did.
Well, that's true. Of course, that was the thing about the Paris thing and so forth.
Yeah,
the United
exactly.
States never, by the way, the United States never signed this thing. The Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration was approved in July by all 193 UN nations except the United States, which backed out last year, and of course is due to.
Well, people don't quite understand it. International law is really you have to submit to the jurisdiction. That's just the way that it is. There's no such thing as international law out there.
Well, if
that's
you're
what sovereignty
what that
means.
guy Maklovich or whatever who got hauled up in front of the Hague.
I agree. Every once in a while, if you do something really bad, the countries all get together and they say, "Wow, there's some kind of international law and order
Well,
here."
I've been convicted. Here, let me just get this pill. And he died on the spot. Okay, and this is the last thing I've got.
Okay.
Other than the Alaska earthquake and there's some other stuff. We already talked about some of this stuff. Baby, it's cold outside.
Right.
The radio station has been banned from playing that song because it is suggestive or something. I forget exactly what it was, but they're not allowed to, because it's kind of a Christmassy song, I guess. Baby, it's cold outside. And so somehow the authorities came down and said, you can't play that anymore.
Says something about the drugs taking effect or something.
Well, you say that. I'm sitting here looking at looking at the thing. I don't see anything like that. I'm naive. What do I know? I've got to go away. Baby, it's cold outside. This evening has been hoping you'd drop in. I don't know. So very nice. I'll hold your hands. They're like ice.
Aha! Oh, no.
My mother will start to worry. Beautiful, what's your hurry? My father is pacing the floor. Listen to the fireplace roar. So I'd better scurry. Beautiful, please don't hurry. Well, maybe just a half a drink more. Put some music on while I pour. And it goes on. What? You know, to me, this reminds me of what was the Def Leppard or one of those things where if you ran your record backwards, they thought it was anti-Jesus or something. What was that?
Yeah, Led Zeppelin, man. I don't know.
I mean, there was this satanic reason. If you
That's right,
ran
Cat
it backwards, you got. What a bunch of goons. So anyway, it's just I read the whole thing here. I've got to go home. Oh, baby, you'll freeze out there. Say, lend me your comb. It's up to your knees out there. I mean,
Yeah.
so they banned it. I mean, people will see. Of course, when I was growing up, I don't know if you remember this, but when I was growing up, they had record burnings in the South of Elvis records.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the preachers would all get out
Well,
there.
they shut that down.
Yeah.
Well, so a little legal update here.
Okay.
I'm using our tech update music for legal update. But
Okay.
Because why not? So, okay, you may have seen over the weekend that, or the last few days, we had an incident with Michael Cohen and the whole Trump campaign situation.
Yeah, I never did understand all that.
Okay, so we're not going to be able to untangle everything right now, but there are two developments that are worth noting in the Trump-Russia Mueller legal situation. Well, I have to bring it up because everybody's been talking about these two things.
Yeah.
So the first one is, and I think everybody has the wrong interpretation, really, when it comes down to it.
Ah, really?
Yeah, they don't see what's going on here, I can't tell you exactly what's going on because, but I'll tell you what I know, and so you can figure it out for yourselves, or not, because we won't know until it's all over. But okay, first things first. Michael Cohen, who, as you recall, was Trump's lawyer, Trump's
He was the go-to guy.
That's right. He's the guy who knows where all the skeletons are, whatever. He flipped on Trump a while back, months and months ago, in fact. And since that time, he has spent over 70 hours with Mueller, giving him, obviously, testimony and information. Now, if you think about the way that situation works, at first they charge Cohen, and of course he goes in there and pleads not guilty. And then at some point he realizes, shit, they got the goods on me. I'm going to go ahead and turn, and I'll give him whatever he wants at that point. Okay, now at that point, you switch sides entirely if you're Cohen. And your whole goal at that point is to give Mueller anything he needs, because you're now on his side. You've thrown yourself on his mercy, all right? And the way that Mueller acts at that point is Mueller says, hey, we got you, we'll take care of you now. You just play along with us and give us everything that you can about Trump, right? I mean, this makes sense, right?
Well, but wasn't his attorney still talking, or no, that was Manafort?
Yeah, this is Cohen. Okay.
Cohen, right.
So, Cohen flipped a while ago, and he spent hours and hours, like a half a week's worth of time with Mueller's team already. Okay, so here's the thing. Last week, Cohen gets sent into another court of law where he's forced to plead guilty now to lying to Congress.
Really?
Yes. Now,
I thought that was Manafort. No, it was Cohen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Cohen was sent in again to plead guilty to a new charge. Now, he already pled guilty to like 7 counts of different stuff.
Okay.
Like tax evasion and things like that. Now, this one is lying, specifically lying to Congress. So, you have to ask yourself, what's going on here? A lot of people have interpreted this as, oh, Mueller's tightening the screws here, right? He's ratcheting up his attack on Trump because he's expanding the purview of his investigation now to include this new stuff, which Cohen is now saying, Cohen is admitting that he lied about to Congress. Presumably this is something to do with Trump's involvement with Russia. Okay? So Cohen is saying, I lied about all that stuff when I was in front of Congress, and now Mueller can use that ostensibly against Trump, right? That's the first interpretation that everybody is seeing here. But here's the thing. If you're Mueller and you've got Cohen on your side, and he's telling you everything, and he's already told you everything because he's already spent 70 hours with you, he's already going to say whatever you need him to say on the stand. You don't have to tighten any screws on him. So why are you going to force him to go take another charge? In other words, there's some kind of conflict between Mueller and Cohen. Mueller either forced Cohen or could not prevent Cohen from having to pick up yet another charge, which presumably they don't need for sentencing because he's got a deal with Mueller. Cohen's got a deal with Mueller. So why do they force Cohen to go pick up this charge? And then the other stupid thing about it, which is weird, is if you're Mueller and you're making a case against the president and your star witness is Cohen, you don't want him to have another conviction for lying on his record.
Because why isn't he still lying?
Exactly.
He's a liar.
He just lied again. 9 months later. I mean, what is it? You're proving he's a liar.
Right.
And so you're wrecking your witness. Why are you doing that? It's weird because he would have said anything you wanted him to anyway.
Yeah.
You don't need it for sentencing purposes. You don't need it to prove anything.
So why did he do it?
Why would you send him in there? It's weird. And the only reason I can think of is either it's just a stupid blunder, like I'm going to use that and now I'm going to say, look, Cohen pled guilty to it, so Trump should plead guilty to it too. Because look, this is so bad.
It's maybe Mueller's way of letting Trump get out of it.
Well, it almost seems like that. He's throwing his witness up under the bus.
That's what it seems. I mean,
it's
if I were Trump's attorneys, I'd be doing a dance.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's weird. Why would you force your star witness to confess to lying? A felony conviction for falsehood, which the defense is going to be able to cross-examine him on.
Totally.
And it's just like that is a
There's
weird.
another 70 hours in front of the defense.
Exactly. That's a weird twist. And the only other reason you could possibly do that is for some kind of a housekeeping thing, like we're going to let this guy over here get a conviction on him so that he can say I got a conviction on Cohen too or something. But still, you're undermining the credibility of one of your star witnesses.
Oh yeah.
It just doesn't get any different from that. That he's just done that. So that's bad for Mueller.
Right.
And I don't understand why they did it, but it's definitely not what people have been saying, which is bad for Trump.
Right.
The second thing is Manafort, okay? What people have said this week and seen is Manafort has allegedly gone back on his plea deal.
Right.
Now, at first, everybody said, this is horrible for Trump because now, they're going to show that Manafort is a liar and he just lies all the time and whatever. And so, but here's the thing. They already had that. That is to say, Manafort, the only reason that you go back on your plea deal is because you're not going to say what they want you to say.
Okay.
In other words,
Manafort.
Mueller just lost another witness in Manafort.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely not going to say what Mueller wants him to say because otherwise you leave your plea deal intact. Now here's the thing, we talked about before, Manafort acted very weirdly leading up to his plea deal.
Oh yeah.
Manafort was the guy who he showed aces when he went into his trial. He was like, I got this, no problem. And he was strangely confident. And our speculation was that he had some kind of a deal with Trump. Turns out they had a joint defense agreement. Now what this is, a joint defense agreement is an agreement between parties when your defense is very closely aligned, and you can basically share all information without any potential conflict. And that has been in place and going on since Manafort has been charged.
Right.
In other words, Trump's been privy to everything that's been going on in the Manafort case,
right,
in terms of from Manafort's attorney.
Right.
Which tells me, again, Trump is well prepared to deal with the situation. And also, it tells me once again, Manafort probably believes he's going to get pardoned.
Right.
And this is his whole game through the whole thing. And so we'll see But interesting developments this week, and I don't think they were positive for the Mueller team. I think
No, I agree with you. I mean, and of course, again, when you see the stuff that's coming out, is supposedly now there's a rumor that Trump or his minions went over and offered Putin a skybox, a penthouse in the new bill, whatever, blah blah blah.
Well, that's all part of this whole thing, is what kind of dealings did they have? But he wasn't president at that point.
No.
He was a candidate, and
Right.
of course he's going to have dealings with Russia and stuff like that. So we'll see. That they're not going to. That's I think where they're trying to go with this whole thing.
Right.
But there's nothing there either.
No, I agree with you.
So-
And what's interesting, though, is to see the Rachel Maddow and the people at Slate and so forth are convinced that this is exactly what happened. This is why.
Well,
this emoluments, he's guilty. He's going, lock him up.
Sure.
And,
Well-
and they want to lock up what's her name, the daughter, because of her
It's
emails.
so they're this one to me. This has really been a turn from my perspective. I know they say this every 4 years, but honestly, the politics has really gotten ugly this
Yeah, it
time.
really has.
And I'll tell you the level that the change in the level has been. Now they're going after his kids.
Right.
They're shamelessly going after his kids, as though his kids are evil just because they don't like what he says about women or whatever. I mean, that's from my perspective. That's what it looks like. And never, ever were the president's kids a target, legal targets. And now they're going after Ivanka, Jared, and Don Jr. Anybody they can think of. And
Yeah.
that's
Apparently, they let Don Jr. off of one of them just recently. I forget what it was.
well, that to me is actually the biggest pitfall for Trump, is the Don Jr. situation, because Don Jr. I think very potentially lied to investigators about something having to do with the Trump Tower meeting, but non-consequential. But it doesn't matter because you're talking to the FBI.
Yeah.
So if anything comes of the Mueller investigation at all, I think it'll be an indictment or an attempt to indict Don Jr. If he gets indicted, personally, I would expect Trump to pardon him.
Sure.
And then I would expect them to go after Trump for theoretical, some kind of obstruction of justice.
Yeah, not allowed to pardon.
Well, of course he is.
Yeah, that's the
And
thing.
What they would argue is that it was all a pretext or some bullshit, But that's all I see happening with that whole situation. But another thing right along those lines is Comey and Hillary were both. Was it Hillary? Comey was subpoenaed this last week. Lynch, I'm sorry. Not
Yeah,
Hillary.
Lynch, right, Loretta.
In regarding Hillary's, the non-prosecution of Hillary for her email situation.
Right.
Now, this is a House committee, basically has, like you said, they're flexing their muscles before the changeover.
Yeah, it's going to be.
It's going to be a few weeks, but they're going to try to bring in Comey and Lynch before that. I thought it was funny, though, because Comey's lawyer argued that the House panel should not be allowed to question Comey behind closed doors because it was like taking shots at an innocent person in the dark in an alley. Now, to me, that's just the funniest image ever. I mean, here's Comey, all 6'8" of him, former director of the FBI, former chief law enforcement officer for the entire United States, and he's going to be intimidated by a small House panel? I don't think so. It's just like a good try, nice try, swing and a miss. I don't see that happening. Okay, all right. Coming up. Oh, we're about out.
We're a little over.
I got one little quick light note here.
Okay.
I just have to say, and I'll do this as we're going out. Kevin Hart had a birthday party for his son. Did you notice that?
I saw something about it.
He had a birthday party. Oops. And he had it themed out. And the theme was Cowboys and Indians.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now, how old's the son? 6?
One.
Okay.
1 year old.
1 year old. And the theme was Cowboys and Indians.
That's right. And of course, the far left lost their minds.
Lost their mind. Well, did the son come as a papoose?
People dressed up. They were.
Okay.
They had full on. They had a TP, everything. And I just love it. And he and of course the criticism came, and he told them all go jump in a lake.
Yeah.
As he should.
Yeah.
It's like really, like this 1-year-old's birthday party is not suppressing any nation of people. It's just that's not happening. You can infer all the negativity that you want from this birthday party, but it's harmless. It's harmless fun.
My guess is that the son won't remember this.
Right? No chance. No chance.
You can have all the pictures in the world videos and everything, but when he's 6 years old, you can say, "This is what it was like 5 years ago."
Right.
You know.
I just love it because somebody has got to start the pushback to finally get us back to some sanity when it comes to the way that children can dress up. I mean, come on. If you're suppressed by a child's face paint, and you're
A 1-year-old.
a what?
You know. Oh my heart. I'm on Ethel. I'm on my way. I'm coming.
Look at that kid! Oh my God! Yeah, exactly. Elizabeth. It's Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. Yeah, that's right.
All right. Hey, thanks everybody for joining us. We really appreciate it. We had, hey, look at that, Chad and Buddy and Gene, PJ, Bill and Bart. Great to see you guys. I hope you got something fun out of it. We sure did. So thanks for
the
joining us.
next one will be Sunday.
Yep.
No, when it'll be Wednesday. Excuse me.
That's right.
Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
That's
We'll
right.
be back.
We're back. Now we may be over at the Jimmy Doan show on this Facebook channel. If so, we'll post some kind of announcement link and everything to try to make sure you guys all know where that is, which one we're talking about. There's 2 Jimmy Doan show channels right now. I'll have to differentiate for them, and we'll make sure you know. So thank you so much, and I'll get Jimmy to answer your questions ASAP.
We haven't been banned yet.
No. Oh, and thank you to Kevin MacLeod for this music. Oh, look at that. Oh my God, it's over.
Probably, there you go.
Thank you. And actually, I'm gonna have to post this now because this is Funky Chunk, which is another track. So, thank you so much. See you soon.
Okay.